Hi, my name is Joe Marsden and I'm a technical specialist here at Computer World. It's my first Define Tomorrow this year and it's a little bit strange not being stood in front of you guys. I think that'd be a lot more fun. However, we've got to embrace the technology we've got to use during this pandemic. As you can see, I'm recording this from home and I've been working from home since March. And this session is about really enabling your users and automating new device delivery, management and setup for remote working. So let's dive right into this session and look at the solution we're going to put together. Now we're using a Microsoft product set today and there's probably some names in here you're familiar with. So let's go through the product set and explain it in more detail. So firstly, we're going to use Microsoft Autopilot with hybrid domain join. And what we mean by hybrid domain join, guys, is a device that's connected both to your on-premise AD and also your Azure AD as well. And we call that an Azure AD hybrid join. And essentially, that means the device is connected to both and it's able to access resources from your on-premise and your Azure AD, Office 365, Exchange Online, etc. Intune mobile device management with Intune Windows connector. And that connector is going to handle all the domain joins from the Autopilot devices. We're going to be using Azure AD, of course, linked to the on-premise via AADC. So a typical kind of hybrid exchange setup where the users are already synced to Azure via AADC and connected to Exchange Online. Office 365, obviously, for Exchange Online in hybrid mode in this case. OneDrive for Business with KFM, and KFM is known as key folder move. It's a policy that's deployed via Intune that automatically backs up your critical user data without you having to do anything. And a device-based always-on VPN. A lot of technical buzzwords there, guys. And we're going to break down in this session how this all fits together and how we can truly deploy a device to the end user without the IT department having to touch it at all. So what's the objective? We want to achieve a hybrid domain join. As I said, we want the device connected to both the on-premise infrastructure and the Azure AD. The device is going to be enrolled within Intune, so we can now manage that device. A device-based always-on VPN is going to be configured and certificates pushed via Intune. What that means essentially is when the laptop or device starts up and gets to the Windows login screen, it's going to automatically connect back to the on-premise infrastructure via the always-on VPN. We want the user automatically connected to 365, all the applications logged in, and crucially OneDrive automatically signed in as the user in the background. We want all relevant apps installed, so any apps relevant to the company, to that specific user, we want those pushed out. Any policies pushed out, so think of things like company branding, desktops, wallpapers, start menu layouts, things like that. We want the device encrypted with BitLocker and the key will be stored in Azure AD and that can be retrieved by the end user or by the IT department via Intune. Patch management policies applied. So the device will be automatically involved in Intune patch management and that can be set to groups of devices and users, same as WSUS. And compliance policies applied. So we want this device to be hitting company compliance and if it doesn't, we can isolate the device and do a number of things. So after all this, the device is configured, it's set up nicely, and let's take a look at that in a little bit more detail. So this is a really good slide, I think, and it's a really nice way of demonstrating how the autopilot process works. So if we start on the left-hand side by hardware vendor with a nice little lit up building there, they ship the device directly to the employee, okay? And the employee then starts to self-deploy the device. In order to get the device into the autopilot service, the hardware vendor can ship it, or we can upload our own device IDs. It connects to the autopilot profile, which we configure during the process. And as I said, all relevant apps and policies are pushed down to that user. But it's a really nice way of illustrating how the process works. So what are the benefits to the IT team? Contact-free end user delivery. This device can be shipped straight from the hardware vendor to the end user's house without anyone from IT needing to ever touch that device, which right now in the situation we're in with COVID-19 is a really good plus side. We get device management, remote software deployment and automation. If you've ever used SCCM or System Center Manager as it's known, we get that full capability and device management from the start via Intune. We get full reporting and analysis. So for Cyber Essentials or any other reporting need that you have, you can plug into Intune and pull lots of reports from it. We've got support for major vendors, so we can plug in to the major vendors and get them to automatically add the devices into our Autopilot system. And we've got some big names in there: Dell, HP, Asus, Lenovo, Fujitsu, etc. We've got integration with Defender ATP and Defender Endpoint, which is Microsoft's new antivirus, and that connects straight into the Intune console, giving you full management of the antivirus alongside full device management as well. Integration with Microsoft Store for Business, so we can push out business store apps to our devices, again on a user or device level. We can push configuration policies, so think of group policy objects, and again, a bit similar to SCCM, we can push policies to devices. And the Intune policy section is being updated almost weekly, so there's lots of new policies and ever expanding ones as well. And we've got full integration with Office 365. The users connected on first login. As soon as they log into that device, all their apps are signed in and their OneDrive is connected for them. And we've got the ability to wipe that device remotely and reset it as well. So what are the benefits to the end user? We've got contact-free end user delivery. As I said, again, very important. No one needs to touch the device. It goes straight to the end user. The device is configured for the exact user requirements. Using the policies in Intune, we can configure exact targeting of apps and policies to users and specific devices. We've got self-service apps in a lovely company portal, which I'll show you soon, which means users can add their own apps if you want to make them available, such as 3 or 4 different browsers or optional company applications. Users can self-serve from there. Office 365 is deployed with live updates, so the users will always have the latest version of Office 365 installed when they deploy the laptop, and it will be kept up to date via the 365 update channel as well. The device is instantly connected to the Intune MDM, so we've got full management of that device. From the second the user logs in, it's connected to our management portal. The on-premise apps and services are instantly connected, so the users are automatically not just connected back to cloud applications such as Office 365, Teams, etc. They're also connected straight back to the on-premise via that always-on device VPN tunnel. So if there's apps that require a VPN or certain map drives and services, it's ready to go as soon as the user's logged in. We've got the ability for user self-service reset. Now, this is a really powerful one. How many times have we had to go out to collect an end user device, or we've had to bring it back into the office for it to be rebuilt? Well, because it's connected to Autopilot, we can allow the user to self-reset the device and bring it back to the state that it was first installed in. And it just goes back through the Autopilot process. And again, any new relevant applications and the existing applications that were there originally just reinstall, and the user gets a nice device. And IT don't have to do anything. They can obviously monitor the process via Intune, but no hands-on or remote stuff is required from the IT department. The device is encrypted on first login via BitLocker. So that gives your end users just a bit of reassurance. So should they accidentally lose that device, which some of us have done before, leave it in a pub, for example. Not that I'm guilty of that. The device is encrypted with BitLocker, so that device is useless to anyone else. And actually, as an additional security feature, because the device is enrolled in our Intune and Autopilot, if anyone takes that device offline and tries to rebuild it, it will just boot back into Autopilot. So effectively, it renders the device completely useless unless you want to roll it back to Windows 7 or an earlier operating system. And I mentioned this earlier, OneDrive KFM, and this is a very powerful feature. This essentially means that, as I said, the user's OneDrive will automatically sign in with all their other Office 365 apps, but their OneDrive folders, key folders such as desktop, my docs, my photos, my videos, will all be redirected to OneDrive. So even without the user actually consciously doing anything, their documents are going to be synced back up to the cloud at all times. So let's look at a technical summary of how we would achieve this solution. What things do we need in place? Now, it's a fairly complex process to get to the complete self-deployment. At the end of this, we'll talk about the other options. So you don't have to do this whole piece. You can do different parts of this. But this is the process really for the entire end-to-end piece to work. As I said, contact a free delivery to the end user of the device. So we are going to set up the hybrid exchange, as I mentioned initially with AADC, or be using Exchange Online. So to do this, we need the hybrid exchange with AADC set up in place, or we're going to be using Office 365 Exchange Online natively. We need to configure the initial Intune settings for our autopilot process and all the groups, etc. We need to install and configure the Intune for Windows connector. And what that does is it allows the devices to join the domain when they're actually offline and not connected. Called an offline domain join blob, ironically, is the Microsoft term. We need to configure the autopilot settings for the OOB experience. OOB, we mean out of box experience, is in when we run through the Windows 10 setup, what do we want the user to see? And that's very customizable. We can put logos in and a bit of company branding. I will show you that in a minute. And we can also show users T's and C's if we want to. Set up Azure AD target group. So obviously, because our users are syncing from on-premise to the cloud, or they're already in the cloud, the target groups are going to be in Azure AD. So we can target devices and users for the autopilot process and Intune configuration policies. We're going to configure a hybrid join in Intune via the Intune connector. Hybrid join allows devices to join our Active Directory infrastructure when they're completely offline and not connected to our Active Directory on-premise infrastructure in any way. As I said earlier, that happens via the offline domain join blob in the Windows Intune connector. We need to configure the Intune device compliance policy. So we're going to set a list of compliance policies and items, and typically this might be device is encrypted, device has a firewall, device has antivirus, and if it doesn't meet this criteria, we're going to block it from connecting to both our Azure and our on-premises infrastructure. We can also target emails to users, or we can email the IT department and let someone know, but we're going to be making sure that all our devices meet that compliance policy, and that's customizable per organization. We're going to configure a device-based always-on VPN with certificate authentication, which is a bit of a mouthful. Essentially, this is routing and remote access of RAS on server 2016 or server 2019, and we're going to initiate a VPN back to the devices via certificate-based device authentication. And that all gets pushed to the device during the autopilot and initial Intune policy process. We're going to configure the final Intune settings, all our configuration policies, all the applications we want to deploy to devices. We're going to get all those set up and targeted to the right devices and the right sets of users. Obviously, any additional applications we can publish for self-service in the company portal. And finally, we're going to upload our hardware hashes. Now, the hardware hash is a unique identifier of each device that's populated into our autopilot configuration profile. We can extract that from existing devices easily by running a PowerShell script, or we can buy devices from vendors such as Dell, HP, Asus, as I covered earlier, and they will upload them into our autopilot system for us. So that means that we don't have to do anything. Device can come out from the vendor to the user with the hardware hash already in autopilot, and IT have not done anything, apart from maybe place the order. What does it look like going through the autopilot OOB process? So here is one that I prepared earlier in true Blue Peter fashion. This is our internal Computer World autopilot login screen. So when the user connects the device or unboxes the device, connects it to their home Wi-Fi, they will see this screen and they simply just put in their email address and their password. It's as simple as that. Then the device will step through the process. It will automatically configure. Depending upon what you choose to show, you can show the users a screen with statuses, or you can just let them see this screen here. Then the device will log in, or will ask you to log in, and you will be completing the process and at your desktop with everything configured. I talked about the company portal a little bit earlier, and this is our company portal for self-service. So we push apps to our users that are core apps across the business that everyone uses, and we also publish business unit specific applications. So for finance team might have something different to the technical team, but we also allow users self-serve on their applications. So we publish a range of applications that we feel are useful to our teams, and they can self-serve from the company portal here. You can also check device status, device compliance here, and you can check when your device is last signed in and connected to the company portal as well. So essentially that is the end-to-end process for deploying devices out to users remotely without IT having to do anything. That device then becomes compliant, is configured with all the users' applications and services, is connected back to our on-premise infrastructure and our Azure AD infrastructure, Office 365 installed and connected, and the user's ready to go. It's a great end-to-end solution, and this brings us on to our final slide really. So obviously since COVID has happened and everyone's been working from home, it's brought a huge focus onto modern management. And that's something that we've been doing since the start of the pandemic. Obviously large amounts of Intune, Autopilot rollouts, and really helping people and enabling them to work from home. Breaking out the components in this, as I explained, this is a full end-to-end solution. Now, there's various different components within this, and it's possible to separate them out to achieve a part of the solution or just to achieve the management side with Intune. And so I would say if you have any questions about the whole process or you want to look at a specific part of it, do please talk to us. We're more than happy to discuss any of the products that we've demonstrated and talked about here today. And also to help you achieve better management, control of your devices, and really give users that benefit of being able to control, manage, and self-deploy their own device as and when they need to. So thanks very much for watching, guys. It's been really interesting presenting to you. As I said, slightly different doing it remotely. Thanks again for watching, and any questions, do please let us know.